In conversation with Terry Lilga. Terri Lilga is a native Western New York, USA resident, retired elementary school teacher, and children's book author of Santa Simon 2023 and There is a Hubbard in My Cupboard May 2025 release. Terry embraces traveling and has visited several countries, including Canada, Botswana, Ireland, Poland, Spain, Switzerland, UK, to name a few. The best part of her life is divine by the time she spent with her family and friends, most notably her husband Pete and their lively mini golden doodle Sushi. And in today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy and excitement to offer the show today, Terri Lilga and Cindy Breck co-hosting me in the conversation. Welcome on the show, Terry.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
It's nice to see you, Terry, and meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you on the show today. What exciting we are here both to sit down and have a conversation around your beautiful titles. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So Terry, I was taken aback by the description page of your book, Santa, Simon, and Amazon, and I would like you to tell us about the making of the book, how the book came to be, the subject lines, the foundation to the making of the book. When did you realize you're gonna sit down and craft a story and write a book and name it Santa Simon? If you can run us through the background, the making of the book, that would be nice.
Actually, the origin of the book began many, many, many years ago. This book that is currently Santa Simon is a second edition. And that I've always been a writer since my childhood, a storyteller. I would write short stories as an elementary student, and then as I went into middle school and high school, that continued. I really loved writing poetry, but I always did it more casually. There was never like an intention to become a
Boy.
professional writer. My intention was to become a teacher, which I did. My family always was very, very um, into celebrating Christmas.
Mm,
We were, I grew up Christian, and it was a big deal. So we had family was very close. We had a huge celebration. Um, my parents always made Christmas really special. We weren't like
uh,
really wealthy or anything, but they made it very special. You know, family was important, getting together was important, thoughtful gifts were important rather than, the latest whatever on the market. So I just love the whole story of Christmas, and that it's, in a genuine sense promotes kindness. And I always write with the intention of a message. There's the intention to entertain and of a nice little story. But I always want a message in my story as well. So when I was conceiving the idea of what kind of Christmas book to write, Elf came to mind because elves are pretty associated with Christmas, obviously. But I developed Santa Simon, and Simon is an elf. He has a leadership role in the Land of Glee. So we don't have a North Pole; we have the Land of Glee, and he's very admired. He's very respected, and he is a very good person. He loves his mom. He loves his dad. He helps his friends before himself. He's that kind of a person.
wow.
So, a boy, probably like 10, 11 years old, 12 years old.
Mm,
So then, of course, there has to be a problem in the story. And there's another land, a counterpart to the Land of Glee. It's called the Land of Mean. And in the Land of Mean, there's a dragon who has aligned himself with a mayor who is not such a nice person. And the mayor
wow.
influences the dragon to the mischief. So basically, the dragon comes into the story. He comes
Mm,
to the Land of Glee just before Christmas. Everything's ready, set to go, and he breaks all the toys, and he
wow.
leaves Simon blamed for it.
Hmm.
So so there's that problem, and then there's also a crystal queen in the Land of Glee, and the dragon takes her. So basically, Simon's charge is to help Santa rescue their crystal queen and to restore Christmas and his reputation.
For the readers of P English literature, could you just maybe touch on some of the themes that they might encounter picking up this book? Because you've touched on some of the subjects, but I want to know just like a good versus bad kind of thing, but a little bit more about the niche, the themes, so that they know what they to expect.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Courage for sure. I mean, here Simon is he has all this respect and it's not just that he has friendships built, and in a heartbeat, when it's believed that he broke those toys, his friends turn against him. They don't give him the benefit of the doubt.
Mm.
And as any one of us would know, even as adults, I mean, somebody kind of turning on you, that really it's painful,
Yeah.
and sometimes the first instinct you have is to strike back. But Simon doesn't.
Mhm.
He's like, I didn't do this. And then, he's talking to Santa at one point, and Santa says, I believe you. And that like is kind of life-changing for Simon too, because here he has all these friends that are abandoning him, and Santa's saying to him, well, I believe you. And not only do I believe you, but I need your help now. And Simon he's he's not real worldly yet because he's still a boy, or a younger man. And he steps up. He says, okay, just tell me what I need to do and I'm going to do it. So, and that also, I mean, in his stepping up, it's showing leadership, that even if he doesn't have the support of the other owls and, members of the Land of Glee, he's going to stand by Santa, and he's going to show leadership, and he's going to go and figure out where this dragon is. I mean, they have an idea where he is in the Land of Mean, but they're going to go and they're going to confront him and bring back the Crystal Queen and make the dragon accountable for the boys, and kind of figure out what to do now. And when he gets to the Land of Glee, he realizes that there's children there that because of the land they live in, they don't have freedom. They don't have time to play. Their main purpose in life is to like work for the mayor of Mean, and there's different jobs they do. He encounters a little girl in a wheelchair. She's a member of that community. And you just see the empathy. He has so much empathy for these kids. And when Santa and Simon do arrive there, they're asking them, please take us back with you to the Land of Glee. We've heard of the Land of Glee, and we want to go to a better place.
Wow.
And Simon has a lot of empathy for that. And he's like, we definitely, basically, in paraphrasing, we definitely will get you out of here. But we have a job to do to get our Crystal Queen as well. And so we'll work on that. So the kids, for the first time and maybe forever, have hope because Simon's giving them hope. And it takes great courage, to just go on a mission like that with Santa, and then once he gets there and he realizes what he's facing, that's pretty daunting for himself too. And then there's another step in it where the mayor appears and he shows himself, and he's just a goofball. He likes power, and he likes being a bully, and he doesn't want to release the Crystal Queen because he just wants to be mischievous and have a companion of his own, and he gives them a hard time about it. So Santa convinces them we're not leaving without her. And Santa comes up with the idea, okay, then your Simon here is going to have to fight Snow Dragon. And it's going to be a battle to the end. If he wins, you get to go and with your Crystal Queen. And if he doesn't win, well, that's pretty obvious, So Simon says, okay, I will do this. I will fight the Snow Dragon, which is like 10 times his size. And he said, but when I win, it's not just the Crystal Queen that are going back with us. It's everybody. All these kids are going back with us too. So that's like the battle is set, and he's going to fight the dragon.
I like the fact that you say that he kind of owns his identity. You know what I mean? But not many times do you find a Christmas book with a Crystal Queen and a dragon. So it's definitely kind of
yes, it's a big twist. And that is another thing. I love the traditional story, but I didn't want it to be the same old, like a carbon copy kind of. And I'm not criticizing it at all. I grew up on those stories. They're wonderful stories.
Oh yeah.
That's the way I think that's my creative process is kind of like put twists on things and ultimately have a lot of talking points. That's the teacher in me as well. You know,
Wow.
um, when you're in discussion with kids, have a lot of talking points and get their takes on
Oh
things.
yeah, trust me, I've read Peter's book, and I know how he could take you down a path that you don't think you're going down in
Yeah.
poetry. So yeah, he's kind of got a flavorful um, way of presenting things with twists, don't you, Peter? So all the more better.
Well, thank you, really. That's so
So
fun. And thank you for the compliment, Cindy. That's so fun to know, really. I've been enjoying your conversation, and from the thing you've mentioned so far, a question just popped up in my head. Yeah, regarding the making of Santa Simon. You've traveled quite extensively to some of the countries you mentioned in Italy in your bio. How does your traveling
Yeah.
inspired or influence the making of your books in any way? I don't know, if possible.
Yeah, I mean, because you get to know different cultures, different ways of doing things, different ways the government runs the country just by
Yeah.
being there. I mean, there's um, different protocols and things like that. So, and I take that back to children's literature. Again, the children that I taught were elementary level, and for most of my career, it was second grade, which is 7 to 8 year old kids. So they're not very widely traveled outside of their own little environment, their
Wow.
communities. But literature and the characters in literature can take them on adventures
Mm.
that introduces them to different cultures and introduces them to different characters and different ways of perspectives of life and ways of doing things
Yeah.
and ways of solving problems. There's always some kind of a little conflict in the story.
Mm.
Um, characters have a lot of emotions that kids can identify with. So many times as they're identifying with a character's emotions, especially if there's conversations after a book.
Yeah.
Um, they learn to understand their own emotions better. So I think in all of that, to answer your question about travel, I think all of that widens, even as an adult, it really widens your own perspective.
Mm.
You know, it just getting to know, and one of the things I think that I've learned over and over and over again is
Yeah.
that essentially people really are pretty much the same. They want the same
Mm.
thing. They want love. They want security. They want to do good. I think essentially most people do.
Yeah.
They want to be welcoming.
okay, so I'm curious. So Santa's Simon came out in 2023. Now, if we move forward, you actually have a new book out, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
There's a Hubbard in my
There's a
cupboard.
Hubbard in my cupboard.
Yeah, and I was curious about that. Like, what inspired you to write that? And what are the overarching themes present in that book?
So the Hubbard in my cupboard, I pretty much always have children's book ideas popping in my head. I can walk into a room and depending on a conversation or something I see, I'd be like, well, that would make a good children's book.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of Hubbard, I don't remember the exact like thing that popped in my head, except that my husband's cousin's mom's maiden name is Hubbard. And I
Oh.
also really love plays on words. I love,
Mm.
colorful language. And I don't know, sometimes words just stick in my head. And I'm like, somehow I was thinking about a Hubbard being in my cupboard. And then I thought, well, what would that look like? And what kind of a character would that be?
Yeah.
So it evolved into like this mischievous little creature that does find its way into a cupboard. And there's a boy
Um,
and his dog. They're the only two main characters. It goes back to them like opening the cupboard and he of course is not. So they start devising a plan to get him out of there and get rid of him. Use an imagination to figure out like how to get rid of this creature, understand this creature better. What are some ways we can maybe get him out and out of the cupboard and out of the house? And it's really a trial and error, which problem solving is, and using your
yeah.
imagination, thinking out of the box. That again, I'm when I'm writing for children, I'm always thinking of lessons children can learn, and and this book, there's not just one way to approach a problem, and
Mm.
basically, if you try and you put on that imagination cap and you do some creative thinking, which
Yeah,
also leads to critical thinking, you're always going to have some level of success, even if it doesn't totally
yeah,
solve the problem. You're going to have,
absolutely.
what did work here? Okay, let's build on that. What didn't work here? Well, let's not go down that road again. They come up, of course, across situations in their everyday life that need one level or another of problem solving, and it helps them apply some of these skills to be able to do it in real life.
Wow, that's an amazing one you've shared with us, really. I love your take on that. Quite beautiful and quite awesome. And I like you to raise the book to the camera, both of them, just so it's what it looked like. Yeah, the Hubbard, the Mike Hubbard. It's a Hubbard, the Mike, and the second one as well. Beautiful cover you've got in there. Lovely illustration.
This is the first one. Oops.
Santa's Simon. Amazing.
Now the illustrator is the same illustrator.
Mm.
And you didn't use a golden doodle to like
Oh,
sushi
you
to
know what? I
represent.
get asked that all the time. Sushi's going to, well, for my pat answer is
Oh,
Sushi's a diva, and she wasn't
oh,
going to share a cover with anybody.
oh.
So yeah,
So you
so
got to write another book with sushi involved.
yeah,
You
definitely gonna
know?
write another book. It's just sushi, and yeah. So my husband's going to work on that with me. Sushi has a huge personality. She's just adorable.
Mm.
She's sassy. She's sweet. A combination. But yeah, we're gonna write a book about her. But anyway, getting back to this book, no, Sushi wasn't the right dog character for the book, so I went more with a kind of I what I told Chow Pham is the illustrator. What I told her
Oh,
um, was I wanted more of like a beagle type dog, just kind of a medium sized fun dog that'll go with the flow here.
Yep,
yeah.
yep, yep.
Yep,
That's lovely to
and
know. And I'd like us to go back to Santa Simon. The book particularly
okay.
has a strong theme of courage and kindness. I wanted to ask you, why was this message so important to you that you have to share and include it in Santa Simon?
I've always been an advocate of kindness, choose kindness. That's what the way I've tried to live my life. Still would like to reflect in characters that I create, that they choose the positive. They choose being kind to people, being
Yeah,
empathetic to people, understanding,
yeah,
take some time to understand others. Um, I feel that especially as time goes on, more and more people live in a world of one, I call it. And what I mean by that is their mindset is that I'm the really only important person.
mm,
And there's rules of the road and I don't have to follow them. There's rules of being polite and I don't have to follow them
yeah,
because my needs are more. And especially after the epidemic, a lot of people in the healthcare profession, I mean, you call the office and their
yeah,
first message is, we will not tolerate any rudeness. We will not tolerate any, profanity. I mean,
yeah,
for them to have to put out a message like that because people are calling so angry and just
absolutely.
impolite, it's just wrong. And so I just feel like it takes less energy in the long run to be kind and be positive and just
Mm,
try and reach out and help people and encourage people. And being negative and being mean and mean spirited is really, I mean, people aren't happy that are that way. I can't believe they're happy.
mm,
I
So
agree with you.
yeah, it's just my way of saying, you know what, it's worth taking the time to just
yes.
put positive into the atmosphere and in the universe and treat people with respect.
That's an important message you've got there. I love that sentence. It takes less energy in the long run to be kind to people.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Thank you.
She's definitely right on that one. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, there's got to be something that is heartfelt, that is something that's a seed that just inspires you to write. And as a children's book author that you are, what do you love most about creating these stories for kids?
Again, I always try and think about the messages I'm sending and what the characters can teach them. So it wasn't just the story and what's the beginning, middle, end, those components, and who are the characters and what's the problem and the solution.
Yeah.
But you do word studies, so if there was a group of words, there was one book in particular that we did in second grade, and it was called Commotion in the Ocean. I like books to be, and I want my books to be those kinds of books where you can live beyond the story, you can teach beyond the
Oh,
story.
wow.
What can they take away from it? What can they learn from it? What can they tell you they enjoyed about it? So for me, it's like a multifaceted experience. It's not just the reading and playing, it's learning and takeaways that maybe they can apply in their own lives.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing answer you've gotten there for that. Quite beautiful to know. Thank you. Now I want us to go into the take of readers' feedback, which I'm not quite sure may pertain to you as a children's author. Yeah, but one of the things I love most about writing is to listen to readers' feedbacks. And sometimes they might get a message the author intended in the writing. Sometimes they might be close to getting the message, and sometimes they might be quite far from getting the message the author intended in the book. But I wanted to ask you, has your work ever been interpreted in any way stylishly by readers? If yes, how does that make you feel as a writer?
Most of the time it's interpreted like I intended, and that makes me feel really good. If it's not, I really do embrace like so what's your take? From the kids' point of view, we are taught as teachers to ask a lot of open-ended questions,
Yeah,
not black and white questions, not one answer questions. Tell me more about that. What makes you feel that way? Getting back to talking points. Sometimes you have a child, especially children, they can surprise you. They'll give you an answer that's totally like, whoa, I didn't even think of that, and I'll be
yeah,
like, oh, I didn't even look at it that way. So I
yeah.
like to see their perspectives because that shows me how my stories being interpreted maybe in a different way, but it also gives me a possible new way of thinking when I'm writing next time too, that kids aren't all going to think about it the same way. For the most part, parents are pretty, they pretty much interpret what I intended, but every once in a while they'll say, well, I didn't think, that was going to happen that way. And I'll say, tell me more about that. So I always like to get beyond the question myself, like give me what you're thinking.
I love your take on that because sometimes kid can surprise you, even with some of the things you never imagined, with that lovely ideas, lovely point of view, and amazing feedbacks. I was speaking to an author yesterday, and she was like, she was in a class and he was asking questions, and they gave her a very lovely. She was like, "Oh, really? I didn't even saw that. You guys are so smart. I love that." So it's an amazing feeling, really. Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that.
Could you tell us, what publishing is like for you as a published author? Are there any challenges you encountered in the process of writing your book?
Yeah, I mean, there's challenges all the time. So when Santa Simon, when I wanted to go and do the second edition, I cannot draw here to save my soul. I mean, I have no talent. Interestingly, I was, I dabbed a little bit as I was teaching and looking into publishing in
Yeah,
terms of traditional. And I did send out, it wasn't just Simon, there were other manuscripts I sent out. It's a very long process and you don't always get feedback. And I knew that at the end of whatever, there was going to be a time where I was going to really focus on being a professional writer.
yeah.
And I also knew it was probably not going to happen until I retired to be able to give it as much time as I wanted to. But in the meantime, I was like basically finishing my degree. I was an English major too. So I did a lot of literature and writing in that. But I did end up meeting a ex English professor, and he was from UCLA in California. He did that, and then he decided he was an author as well. He decided, basically, in a nutshell, to promote authors and just start a business called BookFacts. And he taught courses through. He still does. He teaches courses through that, and he helps authors through newsletters and connections and things like that. So what I liked about him, I had looked into others as well. His package included everything. So
Yeah.
that was my biggest challenge, was like at least getting a lane, to move in. Challenges every day, though. I mean, the marketing's hard. The
Yeah.
more I learn, the more I realize I have a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
So pacing is hard.
Yeah.
You want to do everything. You just have to get out of that comparativitis, I guess you would call it, where this author's doing this and this and this, and so should I. Or
Yeah.
maybe you're just not ready. And you do have to take steps, and you have to have patience, and that can be a challenge for me. I'm always like, well, that looks good, and this looks good, and I haven't quite finished this yet. So that's been hard, but I want to do it all.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer you've gotten there, Terry. Well, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us. And just in case of viewers who are watching this interview, yeah, and just apart from the books we've mentioned so far, do you have any other works you've authored or maybe currently working on?
Yes, I have a Halloween themed book. Actually, it's called Drac is Back, meaning Dracula.
Mm.
Again, it's a fun fantasy book. And I guess one of the themes that are emerging in that is, companionship and a twist on Halloween and the kind of creatures. They're
Yeah,
fun creatures. They want to work together. They want Drek to come back from wherever he
yeah.
is. So there's that, and that's pretty close to being done.
Mm.
I have some editing stuff to do with that. Of course, my sushi book, our sushi book. I think I'm going
Mm.
to call it the side of sushi, but I'm not quite sure yet.
Wow.
So we're going to work on that. And then I also have, I wanted a Christian-based inspirational book. So I have that idea in my mind. I really haven't framed that out very much because I've been so busy with these other books. This is funny. Like I said, I can get an idea from anything, but I may at some point write like a kind of a trilogy based on vegetables. Um, and but the one that's coming to mind is the Revolt of the Rutabagas, because
Wow.
I love vegetables. It's really kind of weird, but my husband he gets Consumer Magazine, and he gave me this article because I'm so into like healthy eating,
Wow.
about different vegetables and the vitamins and stuff they have. And
Mm.
so as I was reading it, I was, well, I wonder if one vegetable would be kind of jealous of another because they're more popular. So that's where that story popped in my head. But I don't know if that'll ever get written, but that's the kind of
A
Wow.
thing I
cute
go with.
concept, though. This is aside from some of the things, but I noticed some of your book titles. They're kind of cleverly written, and you said aside to sushi could be something that you
Yeah.
might do or something. A lot of cozy mystery authors really come up with these clever titles. I
Mm.
just think that your titles are very captivating. And I just kind of like the flavor of your titles and the association that you put with them with the theme. So I just want to say I do like that. And as far as P English literature readers and listeners, where can we find your book at?
I have a website, and it's terrililgabooks.com, and then amazon.com and Barnes and Noble. And I know this is, just more local, but for anybody that is more local listener, Merit Badge Books is I live in the village of Hamburg, which is New York, and she is an indie bookstore owner, and I did my book launch there for Hubbard, and
Oh,
when
wow.
Simon was released, she had me come in and do a meet and greet there,
Mhm.
um so that's another thing. I really love to support indie bookstores and other indie authors,
Yeah.
but those are places you can get my books. And I know that like there's like Target.com and Walmart.com and some of the other stores, they're distributed at as well, but basically it's Amazon, my website, and Barnes and Noble.
That's
Mm.
beautiful.
That's
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Terry Lilga book directly on Amazon and Barnes& Nobles, on our website, and also on other platforms. I also left links to our social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Terry, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It was great having you in conversation around your beautiful titles. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed speaking with both
It
of
was
you.
nice to meet you, Terry. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you.